Hello viewers and welcome back to another video on Video Geeks. So in the last video of artillery we had explored our installation part and we have seen the dashboard. So how you can observe light changes in the dashboard that we have seen in the last video, right? So if you are new to this video and if you want to explore the installation part of the artillery, I suggest you to subscribe to our channel first of all and then go to the previous video where we had explored the installation part. Now in that part we had also covered some checks, some plugins with the YAML file that we have created for the simulation or the test that we are seeing over here on the dashboard. So in this video we are going to explore all the bits and bytes about the plugins. So in last video we didn't give much background on the plugins, but we explored the installation and the basic part of artillery, how it works, right? So in this video we are deep diving into the plugins. So yeah, that's it. Let's start today's video without wasting much time. So this is the our usual Visual Studio Code, and I have given you the not the Discord link, the GitHub link of the repository, that the remote repository where we'll keep the learning track of all the videos that we upload on the Video Geeks. So I'll give you the link in the description box, so you can just go from there and just check out the repository. So we have created a docs folder and this is the lesson 2. So I have created the file lesson2.md, and if you want to later on go and watch what we had covered in the lesson 2, you can just watch this md file and you can just good to go with the changes. So before moving on to the plugins, just read this core concepts part that we had covered. So although this was covered in the last section, but I would just like to repeat how artillery works, right? So artillery puts the load on the application by launching or creating the virtual users. So virtual users are nothing but the threads that you can imagine, right? And each and every thread goes through a scenario or the phases that are mentioned in the YAML file, or we can also create the what you can say TypeScript version of this YAML file, but that will cover in the upcoming videos. So this is the definition of our test, and each and every virtual users or the threads that are created will go through the scenario, and scenario is nothing but the things that we have mentioned over here. Now this can be the playwright script also, that we will also see in the upcoming sections, but for now this is just the API request. So we'll throw our request at particular URL, and URL can be mentioned in as target in the configuration sections over here. Now each virtual user will go through the phases that are defined, so such as the phases that are defined over here, right? And once the execution is over, all the phases is completed, virtual user is dead, or its lifetime is completed. So that's how the artillery is working in the background. And virtual users is the emulation of the real users. So as you can see, each virtual user will have its own TCP connection to the application and vice versa. So that's how it works. Load phases, so there are a couple of load phases, such as, so we have also not covered the detailed version of the load phases, but we can define load phases in artillery in several different ways. So such as, this is the fixed arrival rate, where you have the duration and the arrival count mentioned. So arrival count is something called virtual users count, directly related to view counts. So view, which means virtual users. So this is something called fixed arrival. So that means fixed number of virtual users will be created to the fixed duration that is mentioned. So for this phase, you can easily imagine that the duration is 100 seconds and the arrival count is 100. So that means every second one user will be created. Now this is something called pause phase. So we can also define pause phase in the artillery, and how it works is it will just give a pause for certain amount of time period that is mentioned. Now this is 10, so by default it will assume the seconds, and if not, we can also give 10 minutes or something. So that's how it will interpret. And this pause phase will actually give a pause of 10 seconds. Then this is something called constant arrival. So we have the the arrival rate mentioned instead of arrival count. So that means every second 5 virtual users will be created up to the duration which is mentioned over here as 30 seconds. We can also have something called ramp up phase, where we can mention the ramp up period or ramp with the arrival rate. We can also mention something called ramp 2. So what it does is, so it will start with the arrival rate of 5 and it will ramp up the arrival rate up to 10. So that means 5 virtual users per second will be created, and that will ramp up to 10 virtual users per second during this 30 seconds. So when the 30 seconds is reached, at that point of time 10 virtual users will be created. Now here max virtual users is 100, so that means so this is the ramp up phase with limit. So what that means is this process will continue happening. So arrival rate 5 users and it will ramp up to 10 virtual users per seconds. But at that point, when the virtual users are 100, so total live virtual users are 100, at that point it will stop creating the virtual users, or it will create the virtual users, but all the virtual users that are created, that will be in a hold, or that will be in a queue until the virtual users are not less than 100. So that's how it limits the users that are active over a period of time or at this particular moment. So that's how all the phases are described over here, and that's the load phases. That's how we can describe the load phases in the artillery YAML file. If you want the more information on how the load phases are created, you can just go to the reference and test script sections, where you will find all the description and all the details that you need on the load phases to be created in, and it is available in YAML and TypeScript both, so you can have an idea about that. And if you want to explore the core concepts of the artillery in detail, so you can go through this getting started sections. From that you can go to learn core concepts and you will have all the information that you need. So just listing out the documentation stuff for you right here. So now coming to the plugins part, so artillery provides a lot of plugins. So in previous video we had seen this file and we had used something called ensure, APDEX and metrics by endpoint plugins. All these plugins are available in the artillery itself, and we can actually install a plugin by using the npm install command, because all the artillery plugins that are there, they are available as in package, so we can use npm to install those. Although if we have installed the artillery, all the plugins are installed by default, and if you want to check that, you can go to node modules and you can find the folders like this, artillery plugin hyphen. So these are all the plugins that are available, because all the plugins that are there in the artillery, they have the prefix called artillery hyphen plugin hyphen. So you can see APDEX, ensure, expect, fake data, metrics by endpoint, and all the plugins that we have used, right? So that's how you can verify whether they are installed or not. If you ran into sometimes a problem that this plugins is not available, so you can just install the plugins using this. Now using a plugin is also very simple. You just need to mention under the configs section, you just need to mention the plugins, and all the plugins that you want to use, you can use it like this. So if let's say there is a plugin called example, and if you want to use the plugin called example, you can just describe the example with just the basis. So that means you are invoking that plugin, and artillery will find the plugins by artillery plugin with this name, artillery hyphen plugin hyphen, right? And also you need to note that there is no plugin called example. This is just an example that I have created. Also, each plugin may or may not have the configurable options. So such as, let's say example plugin does not have any configuration options, but if you want to invoke it, so you can invoke it by this empty options parameter. So that means example has not or does not have any configurable options. Unlike this threshold ensure plugin, so you can see ensure plugin has this threshold configurable option, and you can mention the threshold, which means that you the threshold that you want to ensure that this falls under certain values. So all those thresholds you can mention it as a configurable option under this ensure plugin. Also you can see APDEX, and you can see the threshold which is mentioned 100 milliseconds over here, and there is also configurable options for you can see over here for expect plugin that we have. This is also configurable options. So that's how you can see and get the idea that what I mean by configurable options over here. right? So that's how you describe all the plugins over here in the YAML. Now if you want to go the documentation part, you have this section called references. Under that you will have extensions and plugin, and you can have this explore these sections called extensions and plugin, because all the plugins that we have used are already mentioned over here, and how to use those plugins and how to provide the values over there, that is already mentioned in these pages. So you can just go through and explore these sections, because these sections are very useful. So let's say we want to explore this expect plugin. So what it does is, the description is over here. So expect plugin adds the support for checks and assertion on HTTP request to enable the functional testing. So such as you can see this example, while we are making an API request, we want to make sure that the status code is 200, content type is JSON, and it is equal to this particular response that we have mentioned over here. So this is some kind of a functional testing. Now I want to do this also with the performance testing that I'm doing. So this ensure, or this expect plugin helps me to do that. We also have an option to run the load plus functional test in the YAML file itself. So such as this file that we have declared. So with the target, we describe the environments, and you can see the load and functional environment are different. So load phases, so load environment has this number of phases, and the functional environment has just this duration 1 and arrival count 1. So it is just creating one single user, and we will run through this scenario, and we will expect that status code is 520. So that's how it works on the functional and load, both of the test cases. Now load test, we usually create more number of users in the load test. So it will load test also, it will check all the flow, and it will use all the plugins. But in functional test, it will just create one user, and it will verify that the status code is 520. So for just the illustration purpose, we'll go through these sections. So this test that I just ran before recording this video, so this was the test where we had mentioned the status code to be 200. So you can see just the one user is created, one request, one response. All the values of mean value, max value, P90, P maximum, all the values are over here, and you can see the test is passed and there are no errors. But when we specifically want to fail the test, I made the status code to 520, but usually 520 is not thrown because the site is working, this GitHub site is working, so it will throw 200 status code instead of 520. So that means this test is failed, and we can see non-zero exit codes. Now we have this particular sections of exit code in the artillery talks, and there are certain scenarios where artillery uses the non-zero exit code, and those are very helpful when we are making an CI/CD pipelines. So we'll explore this section in the upcoming videos, but for just you to keep the reference, I'm giving you this documentation stuff also. So that's how this whatever exception or accept plugins is working. You can also read through ensure plugin. Basically it will ensure that certain values, certain metric values are up to the specific things that we have mentioned in the playwright, or not the playwright, the artillery. APDEX is also a plugin which makes sure that it gives a certain score based on the response time that is given, that we have gathered through the load test that we have created, that we have performed right now, and it will give me some kind of score, some kind of user satisfaction score. So that is called APDEX. Metrics by endpoint. So usually artillery grabs all the responses into the one graphs only. But let's say if we have certain multiple endpoints mentioned in our test, and if we want to enable our view to that viewpoint only, so it will group the results by the endpoints. And if you want to do that, we want to specifically use this plugin which is called metrics by endpoint. And there are also lots of different other plugins. You can also create the custom plugins. So I'll just give you an example. So this is an example of custom APIs or custom plugins that if you want to use, and we'll also explore this part in upcoming videos, but just for you to understand and just to give you an idea that we have a lot of things to cover in the artillery. So that's why I'm just giving you or listing out the operations or the upcoming future videos over here only. So just subscribe to Video Geeks. Now I think that's it for this video. We had explored the plugins part and we had given you the brief overview of how the plugins are used. We can again use this, we can just last time run this, see if it fails or not. So we have started the test. We'll wait for this test to end to complete and then we will see how the results are looking. So I'll see you after the test is completed. As you can see, our new load test has been completed and it says we got the error called non-zero exit codes. That's because we had created this use of this expect plugin and we were expecting the status code to be 520, but we got the 200 status code which is expected because the site is working. That's how we got this error. And you can see the checks that we had created using this threshold plugin are passed, and also the check that we have created the APDEX that says the performance of the our website is 49, which is called terrible because we were expecting the average response time to be 100 milliseconds whereas the average response time was not 100 milliseconds. So that's why you can see this APDEX value is called terrible, and you can see all the other matrices are pretty much the same that what we had covered in the last video. We can see the matrix graph from over here, and you can see, so in the overview you can see all the faces fixed arrival that we had named over here. Those are over here with the name as it is. We had pause, although during the pause phase there were few users that we created. So you can see the virtual users created, that is this purple line, and purple line dips drop to 0 because pause phase was there. After that when it is constant arrival time, you can see from the 0 it ramps up to the 5 virtual users per second, and that's why and on the first second of the start of the constant arrival only we have 40 virtual users created, and it says 5 requests per second is the request rate, and that's how it is ramping up. And you can see in the ramp up phase from the 6, 8 to 9, and at last it will go up to 10 requests per second. So you can see the orange line and the purple line that is there, right? So that's how you can see. We can describe the faces also, we can use the plugins, and I'll suggest you to watch documentation part for the if you want to deep dive about how to create the faces and how to use the plugins and how to make use according to of all of those according to your needs. So that's it for today's video. I hope you have got the idea about the plugins and the you can say load faces that we can describe in the artillery YAML file. In the upcoming videos we'll explore more stuff on artillery, but till then keep learning and keep exploring. We'll meet in the next video. So bye bye.